time to talk about everything I read in June. Hello, book friends. It's Alyssa. Welcome back to the channel. Hello, if you are new. I have just a handful of books actually to talk to you about in June, from June. So I have to back up because I think Alfie's stuck on the other side of me. I did not read that many books in June, comparatively speaking. This is not a competition, but based on what I normally read, I did not read that much. So we'll do like usual. We'll go into Storygraph stats and then we'll do the bookly and we'll get the heck out of here. I read 8 books in the month of June, and it was 3,556 pages. Took me an average of 14 days to read a book. I don't know what I was doing in June that I really wasn't reading all that much, but that's okay. So my moods were reflective, informative, sad, relaxing, and funny. I don't know where funny came from, but anyway. My pace was either medium or slow, which probably explains why I only read 8 books. My page count, I have a few more 500 plus books. I think I just have the one. And then most of my books, per usual, are between like under 500, basically. With only a few super skinny books, I don't think I read that many little books, little books. My nonfiction fiction is 50-50, nice split down the middle. I was having like a memoir moment, I think, in June. So my top 5 genres are classics, memoir, literary, historical, nature, and travel are sort of all together. Everything else just kind of lines up underneath. So you can see them there on the screen. I did enjoy most of my reads. So my average rating was 3.81 stars. So it wasn't a bad reading month. Moving on to the bookly. This is going to go so fast because I don't have that many books. So we'll start right here with Mason and Dixon by Thomas Pynchon. I still really want to do a standalone for this, but I don't really know how to do a standalone review for it, but I will figure that out possibly. Maybe there's a lot of books that I need to do standalone reviews for that I haven't gotten to yet. It'll happen eventually. So this is my second Thomas Pynchon, and I really enjoyed this. This is my second read for my 4 big chunky books that I wanted to read this year. I'll try to remember to link the video down below. I'm doing quarterly, like 4 really large books, and Mason Dixon was for Q2. So I really, really enjoyed this. I don't know why Gravity's Rainbow is his like epic, best known, like that is what people think is his masterpiece, because this is so much better in so many ways. Not only is it more readable, but I think it's more understandable. It's more moving, and just the craftsmanship of it is so good. The way that he writes this in a style that is antiquated but like done perfectly is exceptional. Like it really showcases his skill as a writer, and it still blends a lot of the weird elements that you expect from a Thomas Pynchon novel. And I really, really enjoyed this. I know that it's beloved, but I think that this is, I've read 2 books, but of his 2 books, I think that this is his masterpiece. I will read more. I have a few more on my shelves. I'll figure out when, how, where, why. But I'm very curious to see how all of his books kind of stack up. And there is a new one coming in October, just in case you wanted to join me on my Pynchon journey. Next, I finished A Writer's Diary by Virginia Woolf. I really enjoyed this. I liked how this was a curated collection of her diary entries, and I think is a really good entry point into her diary, reading her diaries. This was curated by Leonard after her death, and is entries that sort of all focus around the crafting of her novels or just writing in general. And it really made me appreciate Woolf more as a woman, as a person. She is highly flawed, but also very likable. Like I kind of enjoy her. I know she like makes snarky asides about her friends all the time, and she's not likable. Like she is not like some super sweet, just hallmark card of a person, but she's a real person with like real feelings, and she really cares deeply about her friends, about she cares about how they feel about her. Like she's very sensitive. She's very sensitive to what Leonard thinks about her writing, which I think is really interesting, because at no point is there an entry where she has Leonard read a book or a manuscript and he's like, "Well, actually, darling, I hate it." Most of the time, he loves it and has something incredibly positive to say, according to her diaries, or, he's got mostly positive things with some really great, insightful criticism that she respects and enjoys. So it's an insight into their marriage and the kind of love that they had and respect for each other, which I really appreciated getting a look into. And I just like anything that gets me a little closer to her as an author and as a person, because I don't have any other way of doing it because she is dead. Uh, anyway, really enjoyed that, and it makes me want to get into her actual diaries, like for reals. But there's just not enough time in this world to read all the things I want to read. Maybe one day I'll make it big and I can just sit at home and read all day. Pipe dreams. Anyway, next, we have Someone at a Distance by Dorothy Whipple. This is the last of the Persephone. Put that down without banging on the table. This is the last of the Persephone books that I have on hand. Um, I will eventually do an order and maybe get one or two more. But anyway, this is my first Dorothy Whipple as well, and I truly enjoyed this. It is another mid-century just gem. The mid-century British ladies are killing it for me this year. I'm really, really enjoying it. This follows a marriage that seems very solid, happy, perfect, dare I say. And it falls apart. It falls apart all because of a conniving little French lady who shows up in their lives and ends up being a homewrecker. And the wife in this scenario is truly strong and powerful, and she navigates this so well. She navigates it with her children so well. The husband is pathetic, and I really like the community of women that is built up around the wife by the end of the novel. I really enjoy seeing the ways women really do support each other. And I do think that it's really important for women to have those connections and community and family in their lives. And I think it's something that gets harder and harder to do in today's society where we're all sort of isolated and in little silos. And the only place we really have each other is online. Yes, you do have people in real life. It's not like we all just live on the internet, but like, we just don't have the same ways of interacting with each other as we once did because we're just so here on our phones or your TVs or wherever you're watching me. We're all so here, and genuine human connection is definitely getting harder and harder to find in the world. But anywho, next I have just Constant Reader by Dorothy Parker. This is her New Yorker book reviews from 22 to 23, and they're just so funny. They're so delightful. I really love seeing her very unique style, very conversational, very quippy, and often brutal, but also very honest. I mean, she's so genuinely honest about her alcoholism in a way that I don't think you could be today. I think that, somebody would start leaving comments like, "We're really need to help Dorothy. She's got a problem." And like, yeah, Dorothy Parker had a problem. But people just it was just different times, man. I really enjoyed it. I think it's funny, like the things like she really did have a bug up her butt. I said this in my Substack post about this, but she had a bug up her butt about Pooh Bear. Like, what did Winnie the Pooh ever do to you? She really loved Hemingway. I wish I knew more of the books that she was writing about. A lot of her book reviews seem to be about books that either w- were obscure at the time or didn't stand the test of time and are 100% obscure now for the most part, other than maybe Winnie the Pooh and, Hemingway, which is probably why they stand out in my mind so much because like actually can relate to like I know what they are, I can conceptualize them. As opposed to a lot of the other things that she is either writing directly about or referencing. Like I guess it would be like watching one of these videos 100 years later. What are these books? I don't know. But yeah, it was really interesting. It was really like inspiring as somebody who writes this newsletter and does all this writing around books and reviewing online around books to try to find what like my voice is. Like you can't emulate anybody else's voice, but what is my voice as a person who writes and talks about books online? What is my voice? How do I talk about these things? How do I make something that is uniquely stylistically my own so that, you could read it and have no other context other than the words in front of you, or maybe just listening to my voice or something, and you would know that it was me. So yeah, I thought that was a very interesting thing to reflect on while reading this and after reading it. I don't think I found that voice, but it definitely encourages me to figure out what that is. And I definitely really like a conversational tone in general. Maybe that's something I need to work on more and find what my unique style and tone is? Anyway, I did DNF one thing, but then after going to see the JP Morgan the Morgan Library 250-year exhibit for Jane Austen, I am curious about maybe picking this up in physical form and seeing if I like it better, because I think I just didn't like the audiobook narrator. But this is Austen at Sea by Natalie Jenner. And this is the lady who wrote Jane Austen Society, which I do recall really liking that. But this is about these two young ladies from Boston who go on a steamship over to England to meet Jane Austen's like last remaining brother or something like that, to read some letters, find out something. I don't know. I DNF'd it, so I don't know how far we got with it. We're alternating between the sisters on their journey and like the people they meet on their journey, which is a little interesting. Like, was Louisa May Alcott really on a steamboat to on a cruise ship to England? I don't know. And then these lawyers, I think they're lawyers in Boston, and they're like reading group that loves Jane Austen and is going through their Jane Austen novels. And why I say I want to come back to this is that when I was at the Morgan Library, I saw a little case with copies of Jane Austen that were owned by the men that are in this novel, and realizing how important they were to making Jane Austen somebody that was well known here in the States as well is interesting, and I kinda want to know more, and, like, maybe I just don't like this book, I don't know, I may try to borrow it from the library and read it physically like I said, but, the audiobook didn't work for me, like, just, ugh, I was, like, so bored, but I'm very curious because maybe now with, like, a little bit more context and understanding, I thought this was gonna be maybe with more let me finish that thought. I think with more context and understanding, maybe I would not find this as boring as I did. Also, when I started this, I thought this was gonna be I didn't read anything about it, okay? I just saw Jane Austen at sea, okay? I thought this was gonna be like one of those silly things where someone makes up a story about Jane Austen, like maybe she went to sea with one of her brothers and like went on an adventure, or like Jane Austen's solving a murder or whatever. I didn't realize it was gonna be like actual historical fiction. I thought it was gonna be, like, more pastiche and, like, silly stuff, but, yeah, I have to come back to this is what I'm trying to say. Give it a little dabble, see if I like it more. It may still be boring, but I do wanna look a bit more into these gentlemen who were influential in bringing Jane Austen to the collective, uh, consciousness of America in, like, the late 1800s. Next is Valley of the Dolls, which I read with some people over on Discord. This is this is such an interesting read. So I've always wanted to read this because I'm just curious about it. Like I know it's a movie, it was sensational when it came out. Why is it sensational? I want to know. Like what is it still sensational? Like I'm just so curious about books like this that that came out in their time and really like shook stuff up and shook people up, and whether it I wanna know, like, why, how, does it still resonate? Is it still, like does it still work today? This book was definitely interesting, okay? The writing leaves a lot to be desired. The dialogue is very forced and can be kinda tedious at times. But the plot is where this is at. The lives of these 3 women are so insane, And the things that Jacqueline Suzanne is talking about the pressures of fame, the pressures of patriarchy, the pressures of being a woman and trying to be successful in society, the way mental health works, diet culture, all these things. Very interesting, very, very interesting book. The plot is bonkers. I do think that Jennifer is my favorite. Poor Jennifer, may she rest in peace. I feel like Anne and Neely really annoyed me, especially Neely pissed me the heck off. I did feel bad for her when she ended up being institutionalized briefly, but that quickly waned. I did not enjoy all of the like homophobic slurs that go through this. I guess it was fine for the times, and probably people didn't bat an eye as much. It was probably more racy that anybody was even talking about homosexuality to begin with than caring about whether or not how they were talking about it was offensive or not. But I it was very grating, and there were like a lot of them, and I mean these are people that are in show business and musicals, and like let me tell you, there's a few gay boys in here, and they do not, yeah, I have to hear not so nice words about them quite frequently, but definitely I think it's an experience that I'm happy I went through, but like I never need to read it again. I don't actually think it's that good of a book. I'm curious to see how bad the movie is because I feel like there's a lot of controversy around the movie. Is it because it's bad? Is it because it's good? Is it because it strays too far from the text? Like what is going on with it? Um, but yeah, I'm glad I read it. I don't know if I can recommend anybody else reads it, but if you were like, I'm very curious, give it a go, you know? But yeah, Valley of the Dolls. Interesting book. We hit some memoirs. I have In the Rhododendrons by Heather Crystal. I've been reading some wolf adjacent memoirs recently. May I read All the Lives We've Ever Lived by Catherine Smythe. Then I read this, which is a new release that came out this year. And I was hoping to be as blown away with this as I was with All the Lives We've Ever Lived, and I'm just not. I don't know how much the wolf connection really adds to this memoir, and I wonder if it would just have been a better memoir if we had focused on the author's relationship with her mother, the author's coping with and the fallout of her assault when she was a teenager and all of that. I think perhaps the stuff with Wolf is a little distracting. I don't know. I kind of found this really meh. Like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great, and I feel like it really could have been great. Or we could have just skipped the whole wolf thing in general, and maybe we don't need that, but maybe that's the selling point for this memoir, because otherwise why are we reading it? I don't know. So yeah, I wouldn't this was fine. Now what I did like is To the River by Olivia Lang. And this is my second Olivia Lang. I read The Lonely City, I think it's called, and I really enjoyed that. And that's a little bit more about artists that were lonely. This is more of a nature novel and also draws on Wolf, but also draws on a million other things, all centered around the river Ouse, where Wolf took her life. So the setup is essentially that Olivia Lang goes through a breakup and she decides to walk this path that runs along the river Ouse. And by walking that path, she calls in all kinds of things that are tangentially related to the river, from environmental things to discussions of like Iris Murdoch and Wolf and all kinds of other stuff. I like tried to make a little post-it and try to jot down as much of like the random things that are connected in this. And I have A Break Up a River, Wolf, Dinosaurs, The Wind in the Willows, Kenneth Graham, Hades and Persephone, Shakespeare, Dante, Iris Murdoch, The Piltdown Man, Magpies. I mean, the amount of just random things or seemingly random things that are all connected through this river is just so interesting. And we keep sort of harkening back to Wolf in a lot of it, of course, because this is where she drowned herself. But it is absolutely beautiful piece of sort of memoir, mostly nature, a little bit of historical sort of essay. I don't know how to definitely stick this in a genre, but this was so good, and I need to read more from her. I really am enjoying her as an essayist, as a novelist. I just really enjoy her writing. Okay, so I highly recommend that. If you like that sort of cross section of personal essay, nature writing, Wolf and Friends, I really enjoyed this. And then finally, I read Leonora in the Morning Light by Michaela Carter. This was a random find. I didn't know this book was ever published. It came out maybe 2020, I want to say 2020. It's a few years old now. And I found this because I saw an Instagram ad for a movie version of this book that is coming out this year. I think it releases first in Germany, maybe this year. Maybe it's already out. And I didn't see at the time any release dates for the US. So I went to my library and they had the book. So I borrowed it. And I enjoyed this. I did enjoy this, but also it made me want to get more of a straight biography of Leonora Carrington. Um, and I found the reviews for this, particularly on Storygraph, really interesting because it felt like a lot of people maybe got this as an arc at the time or something like that, and they read it and they thought it was sort of mainly because they didn't know who the book was talking about. And I feel like that's not the book's fault if you don't know who this historical fiction is about. But anyway, this is a historical fiction about Leonora Carrington during her relationship with Max Ernst, and and it continues on into later into her life, but it's predominantly about her relationship with Max Ernst, and it's really interesting. It's very sad and difficult to read at times. You get a POV of Max's where he gets captured during the war twice, first by the French and then by the Germans. And well, I guess it's kind of both by the French, but anyway. And you see their relationship and how, uh, the within the surrealist movement, it was a very like patriarchal movement. There were women in surrealism, but a lot of the women in surrealism were muses, but then there were ones that stood on their own 2 feet, and I would say, like, Lee Miller and, Leonora Carrington are really ones that stood on their own 2 feet. So, it's really interesting to see her relationship with Max Ernst and how they sort of inspired each other, fed off of each other, how they worked together, how they built a very what I would say is loving bond between them. Ultimately, their relationship doesn't work out, but they were very much bonded to each other. And feels like the kind of I don't know how much of the feeling and relationship of this is wholly accurate. It isn't historical fiction, but you do get the sense reading this that their life they were very much infatuated with each other and there was kind of a mutual respect and it was kind of that a love affair that's never going to actually be a successful relationship, but it's going to burn very bright and very hard. And there's always going to be that underlying love and respect that goes throughout your life, but it's never going to be like you're never going to be the life partners, right? Does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe it does. It sounds like a Sally Rooney book. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the look at their escape from France, the pressures that were put on Leonora, in particular, because her dad was so wealthy and was so well connected that people wanted her to really use those connections. And it makes sense. I mean, in the times that they were talking about to utilize them, but then she understood, I think, better than anybody else that by turning to her father, it was only going to end in bad stuff for her because he had absolutely no respect for her as a human being because she didn't fall in line. And it was a very dangerous prospect for her to communicate with her parents. And I mean, that was very much exemplified by the fact that they were trying to ship her off and, institutionalize her forever. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, but I don't know if it's like the best historical fiction. I really would like to read more biography of Carrington. I do know quite a bit, but I don't know a lot. So, anyway, she's a very interesting figure, and I'm glad that there's at least something. I just wish these people that were reviewing it and were like, I don't know who she is. Maybe you look it up before you give it like a 2-star review because you don't know who the people are. Anyway, that's just me being annoying. But yeah, that's everything I read in June. Anyway, let's wrap it up. It's much easier when I don't read like 15 books to talk about them. Anyway, so yeah, that's everything I read in June. I have come to the conclusion I've been going back and forth on what to do with Booker this year. I enjoy doing this like speed run of reading the Booker long list and putting out these like churning out these reviews for you guys and all of that. It is fun, but I don't know if I have it in me this year to do that. I just don't have the time. Like I working 5 days a week has really shifted my priorities, and also prioritizing Pilates for my back has really shifted a lot of my time. Plus, I've added in Substack pretty significantly. And I just have too many projects, I think, for 2025 to do the Booker long list the way that I've done it in the past. I'm curious to see what is on that list. I'm assuming that this will be up after the long list is announced. But I may read a few. So you may see some Booker reviews here if they're interesting to me. But if you've also seen, I don't know when these are going up, I talked about The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong and sort of my feelings around new releases. I don't know if I'm willing to invest time in books that may be really terrible just to find the handful that are going to be really good because I've just been so disappointed in general with new releases this year that I don't know if I want to dedicate so much time to new releases. So that may not happen. I also might eat my words. You may see me start to do it. I don't know. I can't remember the timing between the long list and the short list, but I mean, I may get through them all. I just probably won't do, if I do read them all, it won't be in like the speed run that I normally do. Because I just don't have the time. Yeah, it was easy. It was actually kind of easy last year because I was off for like a week, I think, right at the beginning, and then you know, I was just up all night and had to fill the hours, so I did. But I don't my life isn't like that right now. So much has changed in a year. So I may not do that this year, but I'm sure there will still be some Booker content around. But anyway, that's it. I don't think I carried any books into July. If I did, it doesn't matter what they were. I don't recall. I don't remember. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, let me know what you enjoyed from your reading from June. Let me know if you read any of these and your thoughts on them as usual. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, whatever it may be, because it's my channel and I can do whatever I want.